So I'm still looking for some answers on exactly what went down with this pretty salacious industry news that happened back 6 months ago. Those of you may remember that C-suite was completely let go at Orthofix, that the CEO, the CFO, and the chief legal officer all let go in one fell swoop. And I thought to myself, man, what did these guys do? This must be absolutely just a crazy story. I'm curious to hear what's going on. Main reason I cared about it is because Keith Valentine is 25, 30 years in the spine game. Everywhere he goes is successful. I actually worked under Keith when he was the president at Nuvasive, and I was a sales rep out in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I've never spoken to Keith personally, never exchanged any emails with him, but I do know he has a lot of respect in the industry, and he's respected by some people that I respect. And I was just curious what happened, like what went down, and I figured between then and now, which is 6 months, that they would say, hey, this is what these guys did. This is why we basically gutted the company financially. This is why we ruined a lot of the stock that employees hold, or institutional investors, or any of our investors. We just gutted it. And so I'm thinking, man, what did these guys do all three together? And still, Orthofix hasn't really came out and said anything. I know some employees on the inside that said there's been some town hall type meetings. They didn't really come out with a smoking gun and say they did this, or this. They just said, hey, we support you guys. This is, we had to do something because there's offensive conduct, and we're going to move forward. Usually to me, when a CEO gets fired, it's quantified more with something like this. The McDonald's CEO, he was let go over a consensual relationship. It's against company rules. Doesn't matter if you agree with it or not. That's the rules. He knew those. He was let go. NBC Universal CEO was let go over sexual harassment. And I just feel like this is such a salacious story that why hasn't Orthofix came out and said what these guys did? Are they legally not bound to do so? I don't believe so. So I started doing some investigating on my own, and basically I went to the Orthofix website, which you can do. Go to the press release section and go back to the archive of December 2023 and go down to the amended statement of beneficial ownership. Click on the PDF, go to page 10, and then we're going to go down to item 4. Now, I'm not going to read you all of this, but I'm going to give you my interpretation, the summary, and this to me sheds more light into maybe what's going on. And again, this is not an accusation against Orthofix that anything nefarious was done, but just hear me out on this. So Engine Capital, which is an institutional investor that owned Orthofix stock previous to these guys being fired and the company being basically financially gutted, they came to the board and basically said, hey, we're going to install 3 new board members, which Orthofix agrees to in this, right? 3 new directors appointed by Engine Capital to the board. Now, of those 3, one of them's Michael Finnegan, who is a former Orthofix operations director, who was brought back in, I'm assuming, because he knows the lay of the land. He knows Orthofix top to bottom as well as anyone. He's walked those halls. He's talked the talk. He knows the people, the power players, so he's back in. So Engine Capital is basically from an activist investor standpoint, which is in my opinion, approach the board and they get 3 new directors in. And not only that, one of the 3, and it's in here, it gets to become the new chair of the board at the conclusion of the 2024 meeting. Okay, so they bring 3 new directors in. They get the chairman of the board, the chairwoman of the board, and the current chair is out. So the other thing they have in here is they also, Engine Capital also has replacement rights in the event that a new director isn't able to serve or resigns or something of that nature. So in my opinion, Engine Capital came back to Orthofix and said, what's going on here? Can you quantify and show us the evidence that you have on why these 3 guys needed to be terminated? And let us see it, because, it gutted us financially. We lost a lot of money on this thing. So did a lot of investors, so did a lot of employees. And I think the board probably showed them some evidence. Again, this is me speculating. Showed them some evidence to where they were probably like, that's what you got rid of these guys for? You want to know what my opinion is on what they did? There was some type of investigation going on. I'm not sure what it was. I'm guessing these guys turned over their cell phones. They're probably in a group text, the three of them. They knew each other before, they're buddies. There was probably some talk, some down behind the barn talk, as grandma would say, between the three guys. Someone within the company or maybe an outside counsel didn't like the tone of what they were talking about, and so they found a way to get rid of these guys. But it didn't rise to the level of, hey, let's show it to the public. Let's embarrass these guys. I mean, if they're talking, shop talk, as long as it's not admitting anything illegal or racist or sexist behavior, I'm not really sure what's going on. So anybody else has an opinion on what's going on with this Orthofix thing, email me directly. I'll be discreet. This is a story I feel that we'll be readdressing again. One of the things that stands out to me too is Pat Miles. I also worked at NuVasive when he was there. I've actually spoken to Pat. It's been 15 years ago. He's a leader. He's a regimented guy. He's the CEO at AlphaTech. Keith was named to the board right after this. News broke from Orthofix. He was named to the AlphaTech board. Now, if you know Pat and you know what he's trying to build over there at AlphaTech based on what he built over at NuVasive or contributed to building, I don't really think that he sat and heard from Keith probably what the evidence was, why he was terminated, and he thought it was, if he thought it was that egregious, I promise you Keith wouldn't be on the board at AlphaTech. And so to me, this whole thing stinks. I think Orthofix needs to come out and say what it was, and my guess is Keith's probably going to get his day in court and be able to sue Orthofix for gutting him and trying to ruin his career based on what? Let's see some evidence. I'm not saying these guys aren't guilty of something, but you need to show us. Show us what happened. You can't just come in and gut a publicly traded company financially because you don't like them or you didn't like the tone of some of their text messages, you didn't like the jokes. And I could be way off here, but I don't feel that I am. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments and see if we can come up with a way to compel Orthofix to show us what's up.